enormous change. Heineken started like 3 years ago to make Heineken the best digital brewer of the world, to be agile enough to act and react on developments in markets. You need to have your data at your fingertips to be able to drive changes.
Welcome to Data and AI Talks. Today we're going to talk about the data journey of one of the most well-known brands in the world, Heineken. So if you like beer, or if you like to hear what struggles they had with getting to be a data-driven organization, listen further. If you're watching now, please do me a small favor and subscribe to our channel. This helps us really a lot. My name is Vincent Spruit and with me is Arend-Jan Nijhuis. Welcome, Arend-Jan.
Hi, Vincent. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And just to give a little bit of an introduction about you, you recently finished a big multiple-year project for Heineken to create data-driven insights on a global scale. But before we get into it, you have a very impressive background as well. So let me tell a little bit about that. I think you have been working in data and BI for over 30 years, maybe the first 10 years building models and doing advanced analysis. And the last 20 years more focused on project and program management and also as a consultant.
Yes, indeed. That's right.
I saw that in LinkedIn, just quickly peeked there, but I saw that you worked for over 10 very big names, big companies. And you have been working, for example, for the Dutch tax office, where you helped building a cutting edge data fundament for their analytics. What is it that's not in your CV that people should know about you? And what is something that you like to share?
Well, the thing is, when I was a young guy, I was invited after a training camp to the Dutch national ski team, but my dad never told me. So I'm still a good skier, but I would have loved to do some competition on slopes.
You would have been a professional athlete, but then we would have missed you in the data world. It would have been a pity.
Yeah, or then I would have started a little later, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, well, I'm happy that your dad got you into this field.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. First of all, we're going to be talking about Heineken. You just finished the project, and I think it's a major project.
We're still finalizing, so it will run into the next year a bit as well. But then again, it started 3 years ago, and it's a deployment and across the globe for all of the operating companies of Heineken. So we rolled out a data analytics platform towards 72 operating companies, as we call them, including an environment for data management, data governance, data quality, and data lineage. And based on these two, the technical platform and all of these capabilities, we're now able within Heineken to also deploy standardized advanced analytics models across the globe.
Okay, so it took 3 years. It's a very big program. What are some of the concrete benefits that Heineken has right now that they couldn't have done without this program?
Well, there's of course a business case behind this, because since we now standardized on technology, none of the individual opcos is buying tools and technology on their own. So you have a bargaining benefit. Heineken decided to have two main technical suppliers. So that's on one hand SAP, on the other hand Microsoft, and that's also to balance negotiation activities in that. So everything which is focused on financial supply ERP data is deployed in SAP HANA, BW environments, and everything which is non-SAP related, like Salesforce or market research, things like that. It's all deployed on the Azure platform. And due to a very interesting focus on data architecture, there is alignment between these two platforms and capabilities to integrate.
So what you build is basically the alignment between these platforms. So when we think about Heineken, I'm thinking about beers and getting insight, maybe in the sales, but there's so much more to it, right? So can you tell me what kind of data are we talking about?
We're talking about all the data that Heineken has within the organization, except for personal sensitive data. But for the rest, everything which has to do with purchasing, with finance, with production, with logistics, with sales, with marketing, all of the data Heineken has is on this analytical enablement platform.
So I would say, I think you said 72 countries?
Yes. Well, It's not exactly countries. For example, I rolled out Heineken USA, but Lagunitas is a brewery also in the USA. So we have 2 opcos within the US. And in Italy, there are 2 Heineken organizations, so 2 opcos in Italy. In the Netherlands, the same. It's to 72 operating companies. So it's sometimes not exactly the same as countries.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So that must be a big operation. I can imagine usually when you do an international operation like this, there's always countries who might not want to do change. They don't see the benefits. How did you get everyone to cooperate here?
Well, this is part of a large operation Heineken is investing in across the globe. It's a program, it's an enormous change. Heineken started like 3 years ago to make Heineken the best digital brewer of the world. That's the ambition.
And did it work?
It's working, yeah, because we're having tremendous successes in getting the technology rolled out, deploying the data into all the different operating companies. There is sort of a structure to make sure all of the data is centralized, replicated, standardized. Together with all of these data management, data governance tooling, it's also manageable on this entire platform. So each report that is now being used can be traced, the data can be traced back to the data warehouse into the operational ERP systems. So there's complete data lineage for each data item within Heineken from report into the operation. And therefore, it's also possible to upgrade the quality of all of this data and roll out the ownership. But there's a big challenge because you need to have business owners on all of these data items. And that's still an ongoing process.
Okay, yeah, I think this is the dream for most organizations to really have all your data organized and accessible and that you can actually start doing stuff with it. So you're saying now Heineken is there or almost there where they truly are a data-driven organization.
Yeah, all capabilities now have been rolled out and we're still in the process of implementing, you could say.
So I know a lot of other organizations are also trying to get there. And there's many different challenges along the way. What would you say were some of the biggest that you were facing with the project?
Since it's a combination of centralized technology delivery and localized configuration, it was necessary to have for each operating company technically savvy people in those countries to help them in their migration process. And there was a huge difference between all of these operating companies. You have to see that, for example, I worked with Egypt, where Egypt had like one person responsible for data and analytics, one person responsible for the data management and data governance, and they needed to arrange everything. Whereas I worked as well with Mexico, who had a SAP team of 30 people and an Azure team of 10 people, for example.
Yeah.
So there are huge differences between all of these operating companies. And some of these companies, they had knowledge-savvy people who did all of this on their own. And other operating companies really needed to have a third party. I've been working with Jamaica, for example. And there we had a local digital and technology manager, project manager, and one guy as a data engineer from an external party that built all of the data flows to make sure that all the data get in from the centralized ERP systems into their data warehouse and into the reports. So it's huge differences between sizing of teams, sizing of countries, and getting knowledgeable people to work with all of these operating companies. Yeah,
would you say that that was one of the key elements to making it work? Because I hear about data mesh, where you say the data has to be arranged more decentralized. So every department or every opco in this case should have a data technical savvy person that can help you and can basically be your hero there.
Actually, Heineken does not work according to the data mesh principle. They work according to the data lake principle. So all the data is gathered and then brought in a centralized data lake. And from this data lake, all the data pipelines are being built to fill all of their existing reporting needs and build further on also the new and advanced analytics part. But the knowledge sharing part was really important to get people onboarded to help all of these operating companies. And the third step, which is now being rolled out to a lot of operating companies, is through the availability of the platform, the data, and all of the data management tools. Now they, in each country, can make a start of using advanced analytical models through a standardized way. So we have a global team supporting all of the countries, all of the opcos, where you can make a start with a model that's already built, and then it can be tuned and learned for each operating company to get the specifics of that opco into the models.
How did you get all the opcos to cooperate?
Yeah, that was because it's part of this huge transformation program within Heineken. It's in my LinkedIn profile.
But the C-level, it came straight from the CEO, and they were involved. Everyone was backing up this program, and that was probably one of the key successes, I guess.
Yeah, well, this program has like 25 streams where this Data Prime analytical enablement platform was one. So there, in the same time, Heineken is doing 25 huge programs across the globe.
Wow.
And that interacts and makes Heineken the best connected brewer of the world.
So why do you think this was necessary to be done? Why do you need to be a digital brewery? I mean, we can just drink a beer and everything is good, but why was this necessary? Why did you make such a big investment as Heineken?
I think in the current digital world, the way you do business, the way you do an order process, the way you do planning, everything has developed in the past 20, 30 years into being digitally driven. The entire production, sales, marketing, all these processes are driven by data. And to be able to compete in current markets, it's necessary to have all of your data available. To be able to be agile enough to act and react on developments in markets, you need to have your data at your fingertips to be able to drive changes, to make decisions.
Yeah,
that's what all of this is for.
So you can make a better decision from management perspective, but you can also probably serve your customers better, giving them more personalized experiences. And yeah, I think efficiency, like if you know the data better, I think you can get efficiency over on large scale, or you can learn from one opco can learn from another.
Yeah, it's in fact it is on all the functional areas. So what I mentioned earlier, it is purchasing information on glass and cans. It is production across the globe. When in Brazil they have a volume which is extra, and in the US they need it, then during the process they can make sure that the right volumes get to the right markets and make sure that the entire globe gets served. So there's also like market process between countries that also is being fed by data.
Okay, and if you look back, what is the biggest lesson learned?
Although we are working with, let's say, centralized technology, local ownership is really important. Local ownership to make sure that each operating company itself takes the responsibility for their environments, their data, their infrastructure, their setup, their reports. You always need local ownership.
And what kind of guidelines did you give them? Do you have a specific data governance, or was there some kind of?
Well, you could say that in the setup of the entire structure, there was a architectural design with guardrails. So within these guardrails, the operating company could arrange everything they wanted, but it was within the target architecture as designed. So there was a target architecture, and based on this architecture, the operating companies have their freedom to deploy, configure, make use of the data, the reports they needed, but it was within these principles, the target architecture principles. And I think specifically in such a large organization, architectural principles are really important.
So start with the basics, start by setting a structure where everybody can work from. If you would give recommendations to another international organization that is also busy with getting more data driven, what would you tell them? What kind of tip would you give them?
Well, this architectural environment is really important. But then again, to get to the knowledge that you see, what are the differences between like structurally automated data flow processes or one-offs where you have a specific question? There's a huge difference on how you develop your technical environment for that. I would say start with a few business cases to learn, And during that process, develop your target architecture. And that's what also my learning from what you mentioned in Dutch taxes, but also in other environments, in banking, in insurance, in oil industry, in fast-moving consumer goods. You need to have a real vision on what to do with your data. And based on that, you build your target architecture. And then you need to make sure that that's across all the technical levels. You have infrastructural, data, applications, analytics, and be consistent in that. And what I learned from the past few years, let's say past 6-7 years, in building these data environments in larger organizations, having a real focus on the role of data architecture is very important, especially in large organizations.
So what having the structure in place and architecture is one thing, but also you're saying is don't just start theoretically, start by actually practicing it in a smaller environment and see how it works.
Yes, and then make it grow, because you learn by working. Data and analytics is multidisciplinary work with smaller teams. Max the agile principles 7 to 9, sizing, built from real technical to involving business users. You need the data engineer, you need the data scientist, you need report builders, analytical translator, someone with a real business sense who knows his market. Hey, we have this bump in the data. Why was that? Oh, then we had this action. You need all of these multidisciplinary capabilities to build up the knowledge how to set up your environments and your data and your structures.
And which place should you start? Because I can imagine there's so many different departments, or in your case, opcos to choose from. How do you pick the test case?
What I used to do in the past years, but that's maybe because of my context and background. I grew up in the area of BI, CRM, e-commerce, and 7 years fast-moving consumer goods. Is you start with the end in mind, with a customer perspective. How do we serve a customer better? Find a customer serving process and optimize that process towards your customer. And from that perspective, then you go back into your organization. Where is all of this data coming from? Is it coming from commercial systems, from channels, from products, from production, from finance, from logistics? So start with a customer focus when you start building your use cases.
Okay, thank you so much. I have one completely different question, actually. This is the last one, but I saw on your LinkedIn that you have the background with all these books. What was maybe the biggest book or the best book that you read this year, and what was your lesson from it, or why would you recommend it to others?
Okay, I can explain a little bit about that, because I used to be a bestuur board member of PIM, Platform for Innovatie Marketing. And 20 years ago, we invented the Marketing Literature Prize in the Netherlands. So at the end of this month, we're having the 20th
anniversary
award-winning situation. So yeah, therefore I'm not active within this board any longer, but still a jury member of this literature prize. And one of the books in that selection for this year is a book about leadership, which I love very much. It's about the customer leader.
Can you show it?
Yeah, it's this one. It's written by two professors, one from TIA's Business School and one from Rudy Moenaert and Henry Robbe from Nijrode. And this is a book I really liked. I'm not going to tell about the prize because that's going to be done on the 28th of November. Still coming. I like that book very much because it provides a holistic approach on how you can drive customer leadership from a academical background and in combination with all kind of practical activities. And then since we're having this conversation about organizations being data-driven, I don't know the year anymore, but this book was a winner of, I think, 7 years ago.
Which book is that?
This Creating Value with Big Data Analytics.
Yeah.
It's written by Peter Verhoef, Etienne Koch, and Natasha Walk. It's available in Dutch and English. And I think this is one of the best books on the subject matter we just discussed ever written. And this prize, I think 7 years ago.
Wow. Thank you so much. I will make sure to note both books in the comments below so that people can find them. Thank you very much for your time. I would like to ask again to all the subscribers or to people watching to subscribe, to become a subscriber. Thank you, and to the next time.